Welcome. You're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit, and I'm your host, Malika Mishra. The first story this evening that we bring your attention to is the fact that RBI has granted in-principle approval to Fino Payments Bank for its conversion into a small finance bank. Now, this is the first payments bank to transition to a small finance bank, enabling it to transition from its current payments bank model to a small finance bank structure. This should allow a broader range of banking services for the organization. Fino Payments Bank, which started operations back in 2017, had applied for the small finance bank license in October-December 2023. But for more information on what this means for the bank and further details on this upgrade, I have my colleague, banking editor as well as Mumbai Bureau Chief of NDTV Profit joining us on the phone line, Vishwanath Nair.
So it's a 2-year wait that has finally ended for Fino Payments Bank. December of 2023 is when they had originally applied to the RBI to transition to a small finance bank. Essentially, what does it do? It allows Fino to start accumulating deposits and also give out loans. As a payment bank, they're allowed to accept deposits from customers, but they can't do lending on their own balance sheet. So that's something that opens up for them. As a small finance bank, however, there are restrictions to the kind of clients that they can lend to and the amount of loan that they can give out. 75% of their book has to be towards the economically weaker or the priority sector. That's what is the definition of the RBI according to the rules that they've set. As far as Fino is concerned, of course, it's a very old company. It became a payment bank only in 2017. It's one of the 11 entities that got a payment bank license. And now, of course, that discussion has gone forward and is becoming a small finance bank, which is just one step below becoming a universal bank. So this is a relatively strong message from the RBI that as long as the entities have some balance sheet strength and strong governance structures, they will allow transitions to happen. This is a question that has been repeatedly raised. When will payment banks be allowed to transition? And now you had the first instance of such a transition taking place.
Vishwanath, another thing that I really want to clarify with you is that is this a full final green light by the RBI, or the bank needs to now prove the fact that whether it can fully transition into a small finance bank or not?
No, so an in-principle approval is typically the initial stage of approvals from the Reserve Bank of India. What follows is that they need to ensure that they are ready to start the small finance bank's activities. There will be certain conditions that will be mentioned in the in-principle approval by the Reserve Bank of India. And as soon as the bank is able to meet those conditions, the final approval comes in. That is, the license will be issued to the bank.
Okay, all right. In fact, hold on, Vishwanath. I also have Ashvin Parekh, MD at Ashvin Parekh Advisory Services, joining us at this given point in time. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time. Now, my first question to you is very simple, right? For the common man, what exactly changes tomorrow if Fino becomes a small finance bank? Will loans suddenly become cheaper or easier for a daily wage worker?
Well, nothing changes in significantly immediately, but I suppose what happens is if Fino Bank has been a successful payments bank, so the business activities as a payments bank are very different to the kind of business activities that a small finance bank can carry out. So now what will happen is that, let's say, gradually, as a part of converting the in-principle sort of, approval from the RBI into a proper full-fledged registration or license, as we call it, it is essential that, all Fino, gives an assurance that the technology is in its place, the ability on the part of Fino Bank to do, credit assessment, credit admission, a proper follow-up of the credit because, as a payments bank, you don't have a loan book. As a small finance bank, you have a loan book. Of course, there are restrictions on the size of the loans that a small finance bank can provide, but there are those kind of requirements. So when a payments bank, which has received an in-principle approval, sort of works out its operations, works out its people, trains its people, to really create the credit flow, to create the loan book, and to monitor it on a regular basis, then that's one part of, so that's a part of the transition. The second part for the common man, as you pointed out, I mean, what it really would mean is that the small loans, I mean, small finance banks are actually meant for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, as we call it. So, I mean, from that perspective, small businesses, I mean, which Fino may have considered as a part of their customer sort of segment, would certainly receive credit flow after a little while, up to a certain restricted amount. I mean, initially it used to be 25 lakhs. I mean, and then there are some restrictions on the exposure per borrower and overall exposures as well. But that's something that will happen. It will start taking deposits more than the amount of deposit they could have taken by way of by being a payments bank. So it becomes like full-fledged mini commercial bank. I mean, in that sense, basically, except that there are restrictions on the size of the per ticket loan and all sort of.
Mr. Parekh, Vishwanath here, just take us through what this means for the sector, right? I mean, so
Hello, Vishwanath, your voice is not clear.
Sir, I hope I'm audible now. I think the question that I want to ask is there have been multiple changes that the Reserve Bank of India has announced just this year. Earlier this year, you had AU Small Finance Bank get a universal bank license.
I'm not getting the audio from Vishwanath.
All right, I'll let my colleague ask that question then. But the fourth question being that there is a huge shift in the way the Reserve Bank of India is looking at licensing guidelines as well as entry into banking. And does this signify a next step in that entire process?
So just to reiterate Vishy's question for you, sir, he was asking that there's been a huge shift in the way RBI treats licensing for the small finance bank. And in that context, what does this mean for Fino Payments Bank now?
See, there are two things about this. One is this a major reform. I would certainly admit this as a very big reform because earlier in 2012, when two committees were constituted by the RBI under the auspices of Usha Thorat on one side and Nachiket More on the other, and they looked at differentiated banking license. That's how the whole creation of Payments Bank on one side and Small Finance Bank was created. When Fino Bank expressed its desire to convert itself into Small Finance Bank, RBI was not even ready with the regulations associated with conversion of a payments bank into a small finance bank. So there was a period that was announced, regulations were announced, and it was very clearly said that after you completed 5 years of profitable existence as a payments bank, you could perhaps look at a transition to small finance bank. And so therefore, I mean, as far as the reform is concerned, this is a major reform, quite clearly. What it means to Fino Bank also is something remarkable. What it does is, I mean, Fino Bank has been, because they applied it first time in 2023 itself. So they were prepared, they must have prepared themselves in terms of what kind of small finance bank they would like to have, what geography regions they will function from. Because as a payments bank, you don't have to worry about all that. You create payment gateways throughout the country, and I mean, and that's what Fino would have done. But as a small finance bank, you have a bit of a regional play, to answer that question. So Fino would have worked that out. They would have also worked out the customer segment that they would like to address. So all that will come into play now, basically.
Sir, another question for you is that RBI has eased entry of foreign players and also recently allowed AU Small Finance Bank to become a full-fledged bank. Are we seeing a seismic shift in the regulatory landscape?
It is. Your point is up. A question is very valid, Malika, because you see what seems to be happening today is that the banking system has to really grow at a much faster pace. Now, I mean, because the economy is growing, the credit flow has to really grow. The shortfall, particularly to the and what is provided by the banking system is becoming larger by the day. I mean, in 5 years ago, when there was an RBI committee, which was formed under the auspices of Mr. UK Sinha, the estimate was about 25 billion of US dollars of a gap between what MSMEs need by way of credit and what's available to them from the banking system. Today, it's grown to about 50 billion. So you can certainly see that there's a shift in the RBI's thinking in regards the growth of let's say, credit flow, which will come with a capital. Now, we've seen that the capital that private sector banking has brought so far, its ability to grow its capital and net worth is only so limited. I mean, they keep on raising those funds from the market, but it's only so limited. So the shift in thinking in terms of having foreign that is acceptable from the jurisdiction point of view, foreign strategic, let's say, banking partners to really take up equity position in the Indian banks that we've seen in case of Emirates NVD RBL transaction. Now we are seeing that, let's say, to really have more commercial banks, larger banks, AU also was being considered, let's say, for the purpose of making it into a full-fledged commercial or a universal bank, as the new definition says. So there is certainly a shift in the RBI's thinking. There's one more factor which is making the shift happen. What is happening is that there is disintermediation in the system. The banking system is unable to raise the capital, raise the deposits. I'm sorry, raise the deposits the way it used to 10 years ago. A lot of small saving, the household, small savings or savings are flowing into the markets, capital markets, by way of SIPs, as we see, by way of participation in the market, let's say. IPOs, of course, is one more example. So we find, therefore, that the banking system with disintermediation will have limited deposits. It will
Right,
have to
sir.
rely on large capital, basically.
Got it,
So
sir.
thinking, the shift is certainly happening,
Got
Malika.
it. Thank you so much, sir, for explaining that to us. Of course, as you highlighted, as RBI opens its door to give more credit access to a lot of people, the example of Fino Payments Bank sits very rightly so as it converts itself to small finance bank. Thank you so much for helping us make sense of the in-principle approval, and a big no definitely for Fino Payments Bank.